The Ukraine war began in 2022. Since then, Kiev has had many tough weeks, but none as bad as the last one. For 3 years, the US has backed Ukraine in this war, but Donald Trump came and changed that. So now Kiev is left on its own. Its NATO membership bid is up in the air. The US wants its mineral reserves. It may have to concede land to Russia, and a peace deal is being negotiated, but not on its own terms. What will all of this mean for Ukraine? What is President Zelensky's next step? What will Kiev have to lose to end this war? Our next report tells you.
For nearly 3 years, Ukraine has waged a war of survival. It has endured battlefield losses. It has had victories, international summits, shifting alliances, and the tragic weight of lost lives. But the past week has been the most punishing in Ukraine's struggle. A week in which the fragile scaffold of Western support began to tremble, all under the weight of American indifference. The shock came from Washington, where President Trump all but dismantled the rhetorical edifice of unwavering US support. No NATO membership, no security guarantees.
Do you oppose NATO membership for Ukraine?
I don't think it's practical to have it, personally.
If the war were to end, he says he wants guarantees of security.
We'll see what that means.
And no obligation to restore Ukraine's territorial integrity. In the face of America's retreat, someone needed to fill the gap. The obvious choice was Europe. The European Union has been steadfast in its support for Ukraine, but it lacks the military capability to replace US security guarantees.
It will provoke a world war. There is nothing else I can say about these negotiations. We are at war, so it's okay, but poor Europe. I think this is another step towards a world war. Trump is trying to pacify the aggressor.
I believe there should be justice for Ukraine, because I consider the ceasefire to be our defeat. We have been destroyed for so long. How many heroes died? What is the reconciliation? The world has to intervene.
So Western support is not an ironclad promise, but a shifting tide. So where does that leave Ukraine and its president Volodymyr Zelensky? Trump's move has left Kyiv with a bleak choice. If it chooses to resist negotiations, it risks an attritional military defeat. If it engages, it will likely be forced to accept conditions dictated by Moscow, particularly regarding the occupied territories in the east. Meanwhile, Russia is stepping up attacks on Ukrainian forces. The main attacks were concentrated around Pokrovsk, which is a logistics hub. Kyiv's military reported 261 combat engagements with Russia on Saturday, the largest number recorded this year. Meanwhile, overnight Russian strikes hit a Ukraine power plant, leaving residents in southern Mykolaiv freezing in the cold. And as if war and diplomacy were not enough, Zelensky now faces mounting domestic pressure. His approval ratings have slipped. His move to sanction former President Petro Poroshenko is being slammed. Trump and his allies have begun pressing for Ukrainian elections. They argue Zelensky's mandate has long expired. Things are looking grim for the Ukrainian president, who wants security guarantees and growing support from Europe.
This is about making Europe's contribution to our partnership equal to America's. And we need the same approach when it comes to diplomacy, working together for peace. Ukraine will never accept deals made behind our backs without our involvement. This war cannot be decided by just a few leaders, not by Trump and Putin, not by me and Putin, not by anyone here in Munich sitting down with Putin alone. We must apply pressure together to make real peace.
Zelensky can make demands, but right now, Ukraine is facing a grim paradox. It has too much to lose and too little to bargain with. A failed peace deal could be worse than no deal at all. What Ukraine needs most is time. Time to stabilize its front, time to rebuild its forces, and time to navigate the diplomatic minefield ahead. But time is precisely what it lacks.